Pranayna, how are you feeling today?
I'm good. I'm very happy to be here. I'm excited.
We're happy to.
This is actually the second season first episode shoot as a. So
thank you so much for having me as your first guest. I do feel special.
You're most welcome. Welcome.
Actually, I feel privileged to have you in our first episode of season 2.
This is off to a great start. I already feel great about myself.
Let's shift to that.
Right. Perfect.
See? What did I
Welcome. Okay. So, let's get into few topics just like because Pranayna is here. She talks a lot about podcast. She talks a lot about career and soft skills. So recent times I'm like feel the way the economy is right now and the way that people are going abroad, like मान्छेहरुको इच्छा नै बाहिर जाने नै धेरै भइरहेको छ. Somewhere down the line, I feel like people really lack a level of skill for them to be thinking of going abroad, in some ways. हुन्छ नि बाहिर जाने चाहिँ सोच्छन्, that's there, but यहाँ जति आफ्नो एक्सपिरियन्स हुनुपर्ने हो अथवा एउटा लेभल अफ स्किल हुनुपर्ने हो त्यो बिल्ड नगरिकन बाहिर जाँदाखेरि I feel like they struggle a lot outside. So that's where you come into play, Nita. Right? That's where you come into play in terms of trying to provide a level of skill, soft skills, so to speak. So how has your sort of journey been so far, and what has your experience been so far in this industry? About your scenario?
So one disclaimer, I'm not a certified coach. So that is something that I always like to clarify, because I talk about this as well. There's a lot of false information flying around on the internet, and everybody's become a coach or a guru. The only reason I got into soft skill is because I've been working for 13 years, and the fact that I worked across so many countries, what you mentioned, I've been a student in America, in Australia, and I know how difficult it is, because school, especially when I was studying, we weren't taught interview skills or selling skills or communication, just the foundations of it. That's one of the reasons I got into it, because Nepal फर्किसकेपछि चाहिँ we all complain a lot, right? And we are valid to do so, because we say मान्छे पाउँदैन, मान्छे नपाउने होइन नि त, सब कतिजनाले काम खोजिरहनु भएको छ, नपाएर पनि बाहिर विदेश जाने हो. तर why do they not get the job is because they lack soft skills. इन्टरभ्यूमा आउँदाखेरि how should you dress? I've had people who walked in ripped jeans and topples. But it's the first impression, literally.
Come on.
Or sat like this and said, "Pannus na." Sotnus no question, literally.
Seriously, oh my God.
I'm not even exaggerating. And I've had to coach people while I'm taking the interviews. Like, don't be nervous. Please have a glass of water. Simple question matre ho. So I usually try to make them feel, more comfortable. And that's how this journey actually began, because a few individuals had के गर्ने दिदी तपाईले कुरा गर्नुहुन्छ करियरको बारेमा, कम्युनिकेसनको फाउन्डेसन के हो, कसरी, how can I improve my communication skills? And I thought, though I'm not a coach, do I have experience of communicating professionally? Have I given lots and lots of interviews? Have I taken lots of interviews to be able to give people those foundations of being able to sell better, be able to be understood better? That's how the soft skills journey began. And that we got into communications and leadership coaching. And just to add a little bit to that, my sister started this company called Hivela a few years ago. And Hivela was a love letter from me and my sister to Nepal, as an answer to the complaint or the disheartening feeling that we had that Nepal ma kina yesto cha. There's so many talented individuals who are not getting enough opportunities because they didn't have access to learn these skills. And that's how Hivela began. So we go into training with understanding what is it that you actually lack. Communication ma pani ta, there's so many facets to understand communication. I just cover the foundations. And majority of the coaching that I've done so far, I've worked with a few companies already. We always take feedback at the end of the session, and most of the feedback that I've received is, I've never heard this before. And I just cover the foundations, like tapaiko volume kati cha, tone kati cha, but that is so far my soft skill journey.
Okay, but then, like you said, you are not certified, right? तर certification हुनु कतिको जरुरी लाग्छ?
Certification हुन to a certain extent जरुरी लाग्छ मलाई.
At some level कस्तो हुन्छ भन्दाखेरि जसले ट्रेनिङ लिन खोज्छ नि उनीहरूलाई at the end of the day एउटा सर्टिफिकेट चाहिन्छ, अनि त्यो सर्टिफिकेट चाहिँ लगेर होइन वेन यु गो टु लेट्स से इन्टरभ्युज मैले यस्तो ट्रेनिङ लिएको छु भन्दाखेरि डज इट रियली एड भ्याल्यू होइन फर मी लाइक इट एड्स 0 भ्याल्यू वान आइम इन्टरभ्युङ एनी बडी हुन्छ नि लाइक लास्टमा गएर सर्टिफिकेट चाहे एमबिएको होस् चाहे कुनै पनि ट्रेनिङ लिएको होस् मेरो अगाडि आएर बोल्दाखेरि आर यु बिङ एबल टु एक्सप्रेस यर सेल्फ प्रपरली इज द मेजर लाइक पोइन्ट द्याट आई वुड प्रोबब्ली चेक के खास चाहिँ बट देन द्याट सर्टिफिकेटले म्याटर गर्छ कि गर्दैन
So there are two sides.
Do you get
to this
certificates
coin.
from Hive as well?
We do.
Okay.
So there are two sides to the coin. One is, like I said, there are a lot of people professing and giving out information just because you sound confident or you sell really well. Like the gift of the gap, they're selling a lot of things. One is, for me, a lot of what backs me up or gives me the confidence. And I do this in every single session. I tell them about my experience of what I've done in my life so far. And I always say, why should I listen to this person? Why should I give 2 hours of my life to this person? So I always share my experience. But that is my certification to a certain extent. But soft skills are life skills, as you mentioned. The reason you wouldn't care about a communication certificate to a certain extent is, class later, if you cannot do an interview well, what's the point? But on the other hand, like certification itself, though, of course, it's important, especially not specifically soft skills, but our skills are cool. Of course, they matter.
Exactly. To certificate, Lisa gives a false sense of confidence. होइन त्यो सर्टिफिकेटलेस कन्फिडेन्स आउने होइन नि त बट देन अगेन आई बिलिभ द्याट इफ यु सोर्ट अफ प्र्याक्टिस वेल अन अ डेली बेसिस द्याट्स वेन यु डेभलप युर सफ्ट स्किल्स नि त you know what I mean just having a training or that does not add that much of value but it does give you a good direction. What do you think?
No, I could not agree with you more. I continuously say this. Learning is a lifelong process. You cannot stop. The most successful people in the world, Warren Buffett keeps talking about, or Bill Gates, he goes into isolation just to read books because if he thinks he's not learned enough, or the world is evolving so rapidly. So learning is continuous. And like you said, communication ma pani 2 घण्टाको क्लास चाहिँ तपाईले के सिकाउने मैले कसरी बोल्ने because I always say this, communication is a very psychological thing. It's very characteristic of you. तपाईले जसरी बोल्नुहुन्छ तपाईको हुर्काइमा तपाईको घरमा तपाईको साथीहरुमा भर पर्छ. So अहिले if you go into our something that you said is so important. Practice is key with everything we do.
Exactly.
Even look at players like professional football players. Will they stop practicing? Of course not. Just because they've got into one tournament and won even. So absolutely.
Yeah, मेरो एक्सपिरियन्समा मलाई फिल भएको पनि I feel like a lot of people lack soft skills लेभलमा चाहिँ कम्युनिकेसन भनौँ न प्रोनाउन्सिएसन यस्तो कुरामा कि आई प्र्याक्टिस अन अ रेगुलर बेसिस इनफ्याक्ट दिस पडकास्ट इट्स सेल्फ इज अ फर्म अफ प्र्याक्टिस फर मी इफ यु नो व्हाट आई मिन राइट यस्तो गरिराख्यो भने देयर इज नो रिजन फर मी टु टक टु एनीबडी नि त नत्र होइन अनलेस अदरवाइज इट कम्स अलङ विथ द वर्क तर यस्तो खालको गरिराख्यो भने चाहिँ हाम्रो पनि स्किल डेभलपमेन्टकै कुरा हो नि त यो पनि भनेर नै इनिसिएट गर्न खोजेको कुराहरू हो कि यो पनि right?
So true.
So
one of the come
so
go.
While we talk about it, I'm really learning importance of money right now. So as a general person, जुन हामीले पहिला स्टुडेन्ट्सहरू बाहिर जाने कुरा गऱ्यौँ स्टार्ट त्यहाँबाट भयो सो स्टुडेन्ट्सहरूले फर्स्टमा लर्निङ कहाँबाट सुरु गर्ने वाट आर वी सपोज टु लर्न बिकज आई थिङ्क त्यो ग्याप पनि धेरै छ कि म सिकौँ त सिकौँ कि
realizing the fact that your soft skills is like at level 0 होइन त्यो कसरी कहाँबाट सुरु गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ what would
do we start?
That is how I ended up becoming a communications coach. So I actually teach leadership in the sense that leadership management strategy, that's what my specialization is in the past 13 years. That's what I've worked with, a lot of strategy and how to like business kasto helka strategy and management science. The reason I got into communication was because I realized that's where you need to start. Because as a leader, something I say during the workshops that I do, you're continuously selling in your life. Correct. So when I first got this first C-level role in my life, CEO, I had to Google what does a CEO do. Sounds very fancy. God, C-level bio. It was a small startup. Turns out, I started my career selling products. And when I reached C-level, I had to sell ideas. And what I thought, my opinion was something that I had to sell. And selling is communication. How do you convince someone? How do you make someone understand your point of view? Help them feel understood, because communication is a lot of listening as well, which people tend to forget. But if you are to start somewhere, in your soft skills journey, you have to start with communication. बोल्नै आएन, तपाईले भनेको कुरा कसैले पनि बुझेन भने there is no point. You cannot convince anyone. You cannot sell anything. So C-level roles, I had to sell my ideas to the board of directors. Like, are you like the business is running well on it, and even to my team to make them feel motivated. You'll have to communicate in such a way that they feel inspired and motivated. So the foundation for any soft skill, I think, and I believe, is communication.
Exactly. Not realizing that you have a bad communication skill is something I believe is a big problem right now, not only amongst us, but especially amongst the young generation these days. के हैन स्कुलमा एउटा लेभलमा होला हैन सिकाइएको छ होला. However, when they go into their professional sort of career journey, हैन, I feel like they lack that skill of communicating well. Okay? I don't know, but I think that's a bigger problem.
I think what you mean to say is self-awareness.
Yeah, exactly.
That is so true. I've believed, I share this, that the worst leaders in the world are the ones who are insecure. For me. And insecurity also comes from a lack of self-awareness, because you don't realize what you're lagging in, and then you're trying to compensate it sometimes with, different, like, a comment that I've seen a lot recently, किनकि मैले career advice दिँदाखेरि चाहिँ मेरो contentमा I talk about going the extra mile, putting in extra effort, and most of the comments that I received says, त्यस्तो गर्यो भने त नेपालमा काम छैन, जितना पैसा दिया है उतना ही मिलेगा. I got a lot of comments like that, but that just gave me an understanding of नेपालको management style कस्तो होला, जहाँ मान्छेहरूलाई मैले धेरै मेहनत गरेँ भने मेरो फाइदा उठाइन्छ या काम छैन, I will be unappreciated.
Wow.
That comes from lack of self-awareness.
Exactly.
And that comes to communication. I know I'm going the long-winded road, but what I'm trying to say, imagine if you were self-aware that these are the things I lag in, and I'm going to work on it.
Yeah.
Self-awareness नै छैन, अनि त्यसपछि communications.
People think that just because they have a degree, just because they have a master's degree, भनौँ न MBA गरेको छ भने, you're not good at communication. क्या फर्स्ट अफ अल होइन. नेपालको अहिलेको समयको नि एजुकेसन सिस्टममा मैले जुन कोर्स मैले अब आजभन्दा लेट्स से 10-12 वर्ष भयो होला मैले MBA सकाएको होइन, त्यति बेला पनि एउटै किसिमको पढाइ होइन, एउटै किसिमको प्रेजेन्टेसन थियो होला. अहिलेसम्म पनि प्रेजेन्टेसनलाई त्यत्तिको एज अ स्किलको रूपमा भन्दा नि अब यो टपिक छ, यो प्रेजेन्टेसन देऊ न त भनेपछि त्यही हिसाबले मात्र गरिन्छ कि. इट्स नट द्याट यु हेभ टु गेट बेटर एट प्रेजेन्टेसन के. बुकिस लेभलको होइन के भन्छ, एउटा PPT बनाएछ, 20वटा पोइन्ट लेखेछ, सबै पुरै रिड आउट गरेको छ, यस्तो खालको प्रेजेन्टेसनहरू धेरै दिने गरिन्छ कि हाम्रो भनौँ न एजुकेसन सिस्टममा. त्यसले गर्दाखेरि आई बिलिभ द्याट्स अ मेजर प्रब्लम के. किनभने मैले हायर गर्दाखेरि पनि फर्स्ट भनौँ न फ्यु सेसन्स पछि नै थाहा हुन्छ कि मास्टर्स त पढ्नु भएछ होइन, तर स्किल्स चाहिँ नि सिकाउनै पर्नेछ भनेर कि. सो फर्स्ट फ्यु मन्थ्स अफ एनीबडीज टेन्यर इज अलवेज ट्रेनिङ एट माई के अरे अफिस के, कि सिकाउनै पर्ने हुन्छ सर्टन लेभलमा. आई थिङ्क द्याट्स अ बिगर च्यालेन्ज दिस डेज कि. एउटा मास्टर्स लेभल पढेकोसँग त एउटा एक्सपेक्टेसन हुन्छ नि त हाम्रो पनि होइन, तर त्यो लेभलको स्किल पनि कलेजेस लेभलमा नै दिन सकिरहेको छैन. सो द्याट्स वेयर आई थिङ्क लाइक हाई लेभल कम्स इन टु प्ले, वेयर इन यु प्रोभाइड a level of soft skills training so that they find a direction to sort of कहाँबाट सुरु गर्ने त, कहाँनिर मेरो प्रब्लम रहेछ भने. आई थिङ्क द्याट सुड बी लाइक अ प्रोसेस द्याट पिपल सुड प्रोबेबली फलो के खास है.
Luckily, because I think I've been very vocal about this, I've spoken to a few colleges and universities here that the educators are very, very passionate about this. So they're integrating. I've done a few sessions in a few colleges already as well. So they understand.
यो सेसनमा सीमित भइदियो के कलेजको is what my problem is.
Also
Education system
they're stuck. There's like a government level policy that happens that they'll have to adhere to. That's where the limitation is. But
भन्ने बेला practical knowledge भनेर भनिन्छ होइन, तर लास्टमा गएर
प्राइभेट स्कुल कलेजहरूमा त आई थिङ्क यु क्यान इम्प्लाई दिस बिकज दे हेभ देयर ओन करिकुलम्स एन्ड एभ्रिथिङ होइन. यो सफ्ट स्किल पनि एउटा करिकुलममा राख्यो भने त आई थिङ्क
वाट्स द मेजर लाइक प्रब्लम द्याट यु सी अहिलेको युथमा चाहिँ?
I don't think it's colleges. I think it's your upbringing or the social structure that we're stuck in. I remember the first time I went to US, my first class ma bastakeri, the biggest culture shock for me wasn't the culture, wasn't the food, wasn't the way people talked. It was the way students interacted with their teachers or how confident
How
this
did they?
teenager was to disagree with the professor or speak out about their opinion on any subject. I remember the first time I was asked, because I was forced to, my professor looked at me and said, Pranayna, they couldn't say my name. So, Casey, what do you think? And I was like, wait, I'm supposed to have an opinion? And
On
I
this?
was 17 at that time.
Okay.
And I don't think, luckily, my dad and mom had brought me up in a household where we were able to have these conversations. That's why you see a lot of gender gap as well. I'm not going to get into that. If you don't involve people in conversations when they're young, तिमीलाई चाहिने कुरा हैन, तिम्रो एजको कुरा हैन, बाहिर गएर बस, केटीहरूलाई कति गर्छौँ हामीले? How do you expect them to be competitive when they go into professional world? So for them, communication starts from there, because communication isn't just about presentation. It's about being able to interact on a one-on-one basis. Are you clear with your words? Imagine if we're not being taught to read when you're younger, not encouraged to do that. Imagine if you're not being involved in conversation. How can a college in a few years teach you something you weren't able to be involved in ever since you were a child or a teenager even?
Funny.
So the biggest culture shock, the difference we see, difference in cultures is, or why Caucasians or people who studied in different countries are more confident, is to do with the social structure as well, okay, where you're saying, "Tँलाई के लाग्छ यसको बारेमा?" When we were young, we didn't have those conversations. What do you think about this?
We didn't have opinions. We were too stuck in the
We're
books.
not allowed to.
यही हो, यही बुझ्नु पर्यो,
यही हो. Yeah, exactly.
How are you going to communicate? If you're only reading and responding what you read, you're not going to think about it deeper, which is not going to challenge yourself enough, and you're not going to have enough words or thoughts to be able to communicate more effectively. And I think that's where we lag, even in the culture that we build between friends, that's still lacking, and I think that's where it starts.
Few schools अहिलेको टाइममा चाहिँ हैन, the expensive ones, हैन, I think उनीहरूले चाहिँ एउटा the expensive ones, उनीहरूले चाहिँ एउटा level of practice चाहिँ गराउँछ जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई. उनीहरूको जति पनि साथीभाइहरू हुनुहुन्छ त्यो पनि एउटै किसिमको फ्यामिली ब्याकग्राउन्डबाट आउँछन् हैन. हाउएभर लाइक सरकारी स्कुलमा पढ्नेहरू भनौँ न हैन, आई थिङ्क अहिलेसम्म पनि उनीहरूको होपफुली ट्राई गरिरहेको छन् हैन. तर आई फिल लाइक एउटा लेभल अफ जुन चाहिन्छ नि एउटा कम्पेरिटिभ मार्केटमा, त्यहाँ चाहिँ नि हुँदैन कि. आई थिङ्क त्यहाँ चाहिँ नि उनीहरूको पुग्दैन कि, त्यो हुन्छ नि एक्युमेन्ट नै पुग्दैन जस्तो लाग्छ कि मलाई चाहिँ. अनि हामीले भ्याकेन्सी अनाउन्स गर्दा अथवा हामीले एप्लिकेसन्सहरू पाउँदा एक्सपिरियन्स नहुने, एक्सपेक्टेसन्स हाई हुने, बोलाउँदाखेरि कुरा गर्दाखेरि कुरै गर्न नसक्ने, तर एक्सपेक्टेसन चाहिँ यहाँ हुन्छ, फेरि आफ्नो के एक्सपिरियन्स थियो, यस्तो सिचुएसनमा के गर्छ भन्दाखेरि भन्न नसक्ने. दिज आर द मेजर प्रब्लम्स के. सो आई थिङ्क यो प्रब्लम जहिले पनि अनलेस एन्ड अन्टिल दे प्र्याक्टिस होइन, यो गोल घुमिरहेको छ जस्तो लाग्छ. वाट डु यु थिङ्क, लाइक जस्ट टु एन्ड दिस टपिक, वाट वुड बी योर एन्डिङ नोट अन यो स्पेसली यङ जेनेरेसनको what do you call it, the soft skills requirement? What would be your ending topic on this particular?
Soft skill is a life skill, and learning doesn't stop. And wherever you are in your life, no matter what you're doing, you can still learn today. You can start from zero and you can still excel in your life. Just don't let your circumstances or where you are right now define where you're going to be tomorrow. So तपाईलाई soft skills सिक्नु छ, please go ahead. There's so much free information online. तपाईले वर्कसपको पैसा तिरेर पनि जानु पर्दैन, तर please don't let where you are right now dishearten you. Soft skill is something you can learn today, and if you practice enough, which you mentioned, you will still be able to succeed. So please don't give up, and just think that, okay, you know what, even if I start from day one today, you can still do it.
Amazing. You worked at Raaz, होइन? So how was that experience? Raaz पहिला के केम हुँदादेखि नै हो कि कस्तो थियो त्यहाँ?
So I only worked at Raaz for a year, but it was a great experience because it was the first big company that I worked for in Nepal. अहिलेसम्म त्यो ठुलो कम्पनीज चाहिँ बाहिर मात्र काम गरेको छु मैले, इन्डिया र अस्ट्रेलियामा.
त्यहाँको कस्तो छ वर्क इन्भाइरोमेन्ट?
It's good. Like my best work experience was in Australia, of course. 6 वर्ष भोडाफोनमा काम गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ I think it really made me the professional that I am today, because Aussies in general are very chilled. They're very body-like, mate. It's this idea that, and something that they say very often is too easy, because that's how they take life. It's just this general attitude that goes around. However, no matter how close you are with your boss, that barrier or the boundary that they create with the professional life, the expectation to be good at your job and be very professional and still be very friendly. That was something that I think was the biggest takeaway and a life lesson for me. So that's different. Like the professionalism, showing up on time and being very particular about your communication. If you're 10 minutes late, giving people heads up. So those are the things I learned from those work experience. Darazma, it's a big MNC, so it's the first big company that I worked in Nepal. And like you mentioned, of course, the skill gap is there. The duality of big companies here is you want good people, you don't have enough time to train them, but you want them. So there's this whole duality that's happening. So that, of course, the skill gap, deshmai bhayakole, त्यहाँ पनि ठुलो छ, but it was a pretty good experience for a year.
You led the marketing team त्यति बेला के अरे यो rebranding भएको टाइमतिरको कुरा हो.
So I joined right when the rebranding was launched. Probably like 2 weeks after the rebranding was launched, that's when I started.
What was the major challenge like you faced कि त्यति बेला? I feel like rebranding the Raaz to a new logo and new everything, that might have been quite a task for you.
Truth is, the team that was already there, the existing team handled all of the changes, because once I walked in, the change was already integrated into everything. So the change is where my Raaz journey started. So I didn't have to face a lot of those customer reactions and backlash, and I didn't have to go through that a lot. But when it came to marketing, luckily, the leadership had also changed at that point. So I was able to experiment with a few things that I wanted to try. We did the first thought leadership event with Raaz, which is something that we don't talk about in marketing. Thought leadership on Q. So that's something that we did.
Q. I would like to be enlightened with thought leadership in the Raaz ko.
So thought leadership मा चाहिँ हामीले के गर्यो भने, so you've heard of a lot of like conclave हुन्छ, summit हुन्छ हैन, तर there's not a lot of free flow of information and talking about issues that actually happen. Your thought leadership मा चाहिँ the idea was to bring a lot of these people together, stakeholders that were involved, banks, हाम्रो partners, people who were involved in this e-commerce circle, policy makers, and then get into conversation about what's the current reality. How can we fix it together? How can we work together? Because it is an ecosystem. We even invited other e-commerce partners. So GV ko aunu bhako थियो. We also invited Shrestha Deal, Pathao. So this whole idea of creating that ecosystem. So thought leadership is leading through thought and being able to have conversations. So that's where, so we were able to experiment with a few things, and that was pretty great.
So for the Raaz, I heard you were headhunted, right? You were...
Where did you hear this?
Headhunted भनेको जस्तो. Headhunted like
LinkedIn
my search.
Finding the tallest person. You're like, hey.
The best way of hiring है तर त्यो चाहिँ अहिलेको टाइममा.
Headhunting. Headhunted, yes and no. It was like friend, they're having conversation, and that's how it came about. I went through multiple interview rounds, and it was like a 2-month conversation process, which has been the case with majority of especially for the last 5-6 years of my life.
Multiple rounds of interview हुन्छ के?
Because I was going into, so एउटा त chief marketing officer को role पहिला थिएन. There was a head of performance marketing थियो, and त्यसपछि head of offline marketing थियो, and then they were reporting directly to the managing director. So getting someone in for an existing team is always a tricky thing. Right. Because as a leader,
so of course you aced the interview.
Did I?
Of course, you got the job.
That's what
you got the job, so you aced the interview.
So I also heard right after you worked in Australia from Vodafone, you came to Raaz.
I know. So
was there a transition? No?
So Australia, but I came to Nepal. I worked for Vespa and Polaroid. I went to India, and I went to Singapore, then came back to Nepal, then India, and then back to Nepal.
Yeah, okay.
So everything brings you back to Nepal. Why did you come back to Nepal, Tara?
I asked myself the same question. Why?
Because everybody is getting out of the country, so why are you back to the country?
So
I think you inspire people to come back to Nepal and do something. Just like someone I say, while everybody is trying to go out, what would your sort of advice or your thought be on this part? Everybody's trying to go out, but you are somebody who has come into Nepal like multiple times.
I have. You can call me naive a little bit. I'm like a bit of a dreamer. Be like, living in the clouds. Because one is family, of course. My parents, though they could move to Australia anytime, it's not something they want. And they're alone, so I'd wanted to be there for them as well. And the other is, I've always been hopeful for this country. And I will not lie and say I've been disappointed. Because I'll tell you the journey. Australia 6 वर्ष बसेर आउँदाखेरि चाहिँ I came in very doe-eyed. Like I had this big idea of what I'll be able to do in Nepal. I will change things. I will inspire.
भोडाफोनमा काम गरेर आएछ
6 वर्ष भोडाफोनमा काम गरेँ. I was a business development manager. Like I was managing like white people. I mean, but like this idea when we were growing up,
white people,
this idea that they're superior to us, and it was inbuilt and ingrained in the subconscious thought that they're because they were more confident. This, the multiple things that added to this subconscious thought. So I thought I'd reached a certain point in my career. So I came back a little cocky, a little overconfident, a little doe-eyed.
Of course, Aussie.
I didn't know how to find a job.
In Nepal, yeah.
Kusari. LinkedIn थिएन त्यति बेला. It wasn't that prevalent. नेपालमा धेरै युज अहिलेसम्म त युज गर्दैन.
Yeah.
Where would I have gone to get a job? I didn't know people in Nepal because I didn't even do my high school here. So what was I going to do? So I actually didn't find a job for a while. I was trying to reach out to people that I knew, but there weren't that many of them. And I definitely wasn't going to ask my parents for help. I got stuck for many, many months. The job that I got after that, the head of marketing role, was a friend's brother. And my friend was like, she's very smart. I think you'd like her. But the thing is,
that's not how you're supposed to. Yeah.
Exactly. I should be getting it for my merit. I should be getting it because you saw my resume. I should be getting it because you know I'm good at my job because my body of work speaks for itself. But so I was a little doe-eyed. But the reason I came back is because there's a part of me that's still very hopeful that अहिले पनि communication workshop गर्दाखेरि I know what I bring to the table. I think a lot of people should be signing up because not just because I'm good at my job, but because of the experience I hold. But it's still difficult. Where am I going to go and convince?
Still difficult,
So
yeah.
I'm still a little doe-eyed.
How did you have that confidence, like coming back doe-eyed to Nepal? Because when I came back in 2011, so I lived in Australia and studied there for about 6 years, 7 years. And you work for Vodafone, I work for Optus. So...
Competitors.
Yeah.
I hate Optus.
Oh, well. I love Vodafone.
Optus is the worst, right?
No,
They're better than us.
They give the best deal, though. So when I had to come back to Nepal, of course, as you mentioned earlier, I was naive as well. And again, family matters and stuff. But when I came back for first 3 months, I was into depression or something. Because soon as I landed in Nepal, I didn't know what to do.
No, bro, you were not depressed. I'll tell you that.
I was. Because, I mean, I think so.
होइन तिमी अलि डिसहार्टन चाहिँ होला. I don't think like depression like त्यसरी युज गरिहाल्नु मिल्छ ब्रो.
So, एउटा चाहिँ I wouldn't dismiss it so easily. When someone says I felt that way, त्यसरी पनि dismiss गर्नु हुँदैन. But the other is also delving deeper into it. Please go on.
Okay. I get you. Anyway.
I think we come to the main issue now.
And you came, you were sad, ani?
And I came and I felt like, as I mentioned earlier, I felt like I was depressed. I didn't know what to do. I did my studies there and coming back to Nepal, almost like okay, way out nahi thiena ke. Soon as you walk out of that AC airplane, and when you jump down to the Nepal airport, happa garmi, and then jada tatai phur, and the way people treat you, and I had maybe disheartened as well. So how did you cope with that? And from that time to this, like, how did all this happen? I mean, I just want to get more inspired by you.
I don't know if I will be able to inspire you, but it's a lot of mental resilience. It does take that. It takes a lot of resilience to be able to go through any change in life, होइन. तर यहाँको पनि कस्तो थियो भन्दाखेरि I had to tap into the bigger purpose of what I was doing at that moment. भन्नु खोजेको I actually came in to be a part of the development world. That's what I had thought म नेपाल फर्किसक्दाखेरि.
You had the clarity already.
Once I wanted to get into something like that actually helped people change their lives. I wanted to inspire, motivate. I still have it very inherent in me. So that's why TikTok ma jati follower nabade pani ghate pani, the reason I can do it is because I feel like I just want to help one person, and that is something that I held on to. Why is it that I came back? Something that I would want to advise to anyone that would want to make that change as well, because what you went through is very natural. It's very valid for you to have felt that way. But it is that prepare yourself, because before I came here, I prepared myself mentally for about 3 to 4 months. I prepared myself for what it was going to be. Not the job searching part, but the culture. Like when you expect more and you have this rosy picture of how much you missed Nepal and your family and the home-cooked meal, it finishes after a week or so. So I prepared myself that garo huncha. but is this a decision that I'm going to stand by no matter how difficult it gets? That mental preparation is what helped me build my resilience. So when I did not find a job, I didn't let it get to me. I was doing consulting work त्यति बेला पनि. I was working with a few projects. गाउँमा पनि बस्न गएँ. बेनीको गाउँमा तल it was a pretty bad weather. भुइँमा सुत्ने त्यस्तो पनि गरेँ मैले. But that's how I got through it. One is preparing yourself enough to build your mental resilience. And second is knowing what your big picture is. Why is it that you came back? Even if it's for your family, look at them every day and say, you know what? I'm going to give this at least 6 months of fair shot. Because there's a reason I let go of everything that I had and I came back. That's the only way I've been able to get through the changes that I've had in my life.
Correct. Also, how did you cope with the earnings?
उसले आफ्नो मनको कुरा गरेर मैले त्यहाँ अस्ट्रेलियामा हुँदाखेरि यति धेरै पैसा कमाउँदै यहाँ कमाउन सकेन
अहिले हामीले सबै युवाहरू बाहिर जाने कुरा गरिरहेको छौँ तर कतिपय त्यहाँ बस्न नसकेर या त कसलाई जबबाट टर्मिनेट गरेर पनि फर्केर आइरहेछन् अनि त्यहाँबाट आइसकेपछि आई हेभ माई फ्यु फ्रेन्ड्स होइन दे आर रियली फाइन्डिङ अ हार्ड होइन एमबिए गरेको छ त्यहाँ गएर अनि एमबिए गरेर आएर पनि यहाँ नेपालमा काम पाउन गाह्रो छ अनि काम पाइहाले पनि दे आर मेकिङ थाउजन्ड्स अफ डलर्स देयर देन दे आर गेटिङ पेड यर कति एमबिए क्लियर गरेपछि 40,000 50,000 होइन अनि त्यो नेपालको
sometimes not even that bro
होइन I'm just saying होइन just giving a bigger hope so त्यति कमाएर पनि अनि त्यहाँ जति कमाइरहेछ त्यति छैन प्लस यहाँ आएपछि त बेबी यु केम ब्याक फर द फ्यामिली अनि फ्यामिलीको लागि आइसकेपछि त्यति पैसाले यु नो हाउ एक्सपेन्सिभ इट्स गट नेपालमा इकोनोमी एज its own turn अहिले अनि how did you solve that like mentally and
I haven't
technically
I am still coping with the opportunity cost but like I said I that mental resilience is so important to prepare yourself to talk to enough people त्यति बेला त I remember म अस्ट्रेलियामा पहिला जाँदाखेरि I don't know I have a feeling you went through a similar journey त्यति बेला स्काइप मात्र चलाउँथ्यो नि हामीले यस्तो फाइबर वाट्सएप थिएन अहिले त तपाईँहरूसँग छ सो इफ एनी वान इज टु मेक द्याट डिसिजन प्लिज आस्क अराउन्ड अनि द अदर प्रब्लम नेपालमा स्यालेरी ट्रान्सपेरेन्सी नै छैन people actually don't know the reason something that you mentioned earlier people ask for a lot of money because कहाँ छ त ट्रान्सपेरेन्सी तपाईँले ल्याएको स्किलमा मास्टर्स डिग्री मात्र भएर बाहिरतिर even in India you will see that the salary range is already disclosed when they put up the job or they say it's negotiable according to experience यहाँ त you don't have a lot of transparency when it comes to salary त्यो पनि problem छ तर I'll go back to that it's mental resilience as well I prepared myself 3 months that I took त्यति बेला ठ्याक्क there was a company that wanted to sponsor my PR my fear was I didn't want to get stuck for years on a contract with this company त्यति बेला there was one of the dealership Vodafone that wanted to sign me up I thought to myself I'm going to be stuck with mortgage and these EMI payments for the rest of my life. And did I want to live that life? And I asked myself that a lot. I didn't. I did not want to be stuck in Australia for all those years working for this company because I would owe it to them if they would sponsor it. Once I took that decision, I had to be okay with getting less money. I had to be okay with not being that happy, with less privilege, with less appreciation and acceptance of who I would come. Because my professionalism wasn't really appreciated. I was snobby.
Exactly.
तपाईलाई आउनु पर्ने टाइममा किन लाउनु भएन मैले जिन्स म यसरी नै आउँछु अफिसको कल्चर छ भने ठिक छ तर तपाईँ मिटिङमा जान लाउनु भएको छ भने त अफकोर्स युड वान्ट टु शो अप अन टाइम बट पिपल थट आई वाज भेरी स्नोब बट द्याट मेन्टल
you brought that culture in Nepal which was not acceptable
in a way it was also my fault because assimilation is so important but mental resilience is the only way when you take that decision make sure you've thought it through enough to be able to say no matter what happens I'm going to stick it out second is अहिले त you have access to so many people you can ask कति चाहिँ रेन्ज मात्र भनिदियो न भने पनि मान्छेले भनिदिन्छ त्यो सोचेर पनि प्रिपेयर्ड हुनुहुन्न भने चाहिँ अलिकति गाह्रो हुन्छ
since you were very mentally prepared and you seem like very mentally strong kind of person right
I try it's a lifelong effort
so I am now wondering I also heard you went under depression as well if you're okay to talk with that are you okay
I am
yeah, okay so you also went under depression and for such a mentally strong person होइन जब सब त्यागेर म मेन्टली प्रिपेयर्ड छु यो चाहिँ मैले गर्नैपर्छ भनेर आएको मान्छेलाई टु गो अन्डर डिप्रेसन हाउ डिड द्याट ह्यापन because I think a lot of youths nowadays, they are going under depression and, committing suicide. And, so I just wanted to bring this topic out.
This is such an important thing to talk about. That's why I'm very open about my mental health journey as well, because I realized the reason that so many people are committing suicide, the number is ridiculous.
Correct.
I was talking to one of my co-op friends and he said, like, the report on the numbers, so they're underreported. The reason they get to that point is the lack of, I read this somewhere, the lack of expression is depression. What that means is when you're not being able to express how you feel, when you feel like if I say how I feel, you're not going to be validated. And the other problem also for me was I had this idea that I'm a very resilient person, that I'm so mentally strong, that I didn't want to share when I felt upset. I didn't want to share when I was going through a hard time, because of course I did. Having to live, like Singapore, my master's degree, it was so different for me. If having to go and adapt to that culture, was I talking to anyone about how difficult it was? Not necessarily. That's where it all came about. It's this idea of who I think I am, this resilient, you're always strong, especially men, think about this, you have to be macho. You can't, when was the last time a bunch of men just sat and talked about your feelings? When we
were drunk.
Because that's how we're inherently brought up. But for me, that's where I think it came about. It came about from this idea that I'm supposed to be resilient, I'm supposed to be strong, especially being a woman in the professional field. Jati corporate ladder climb garde gayo. Imagine if I was upset in a meeting, be like, ke timro PMS chaliरहेछ? Timi kina moody? So I'd always have this, like, the resilient, no matter how difficult it was. Because the truth is, when most women go through periods, they are in a lot of pain. It's like bones breaking, if you've heard of that analogy. Exactly. But I can't show it. I can't show that I'm struggling. And it's the same with a lot of people. If you're not being able to express how you feel. And for me, that's where it came about. Because I was like, am I not as resilient as I think I am? Why am I so weak?
How did you find your outlet to express yourself? Who did you find? Is there, you know what I mean? Like, there has to be someone that you talk with, no?
Correct.
Right? Like you said, like, expression, no. How did you cope with that?
So
you had your friends.
The turning point for me was, and this is, grief is also something I talk about, because Nepalma grief ko pani त्यति कुरा गर्दैन हामीले कि वहाँ रुन्छौँ तर कस्तो फिल भइरहेछ त. What is it that you're feeling? There's a reason why you're crying. I miss that person. We don't talk about that person with a lot of fondness. Can you remember the time when she or he did that? Me losing my sister was the biggest turning point, because I realized किनकि एक्सप्रेस गर्नै गाह्रो हुन्थ्यो मलाई पहिला. अहिले I try talking to my sisters as well, and in a weird way, the content that I create for TikTok or LinkedIn is my outlet, because when I share my honesty and my vulnerability, त्यसैले पनि when someone commented saying तपाईँ मार्केटर भएर तपाईँको फलोवर्स र भ्युज त्यति धेरै छैन, I said I do this for my soul. I genuinely do. And when one of the videos that has the highest views on TikTok for me is the one where I talked about, I actually got a panic attack on live TV.
I think I've seen that, yeah.
I thought about it a gazillion times before posting that. And I met a few people. मैले दराजमा काम गरिरहेको थिएँ त्यति बेला, अनि मेरो टिमसँग कुरा, एक दुईजनासँग कुरा गरिरहेको थिएँ, and I was like, I had a really bad interview because my team was also there, and I was like, I cannot believe that just happened. And she was like, I'd had that too. And I spoke to 2 other people, and they're like, I'm on antidepressants, and I was like, but nobody's talking about it. Yeah. So I was like, after I left that job, about a few weeks later, because there was this whole speculation about why I left, blah blah blah. That's when I shared it. But that is how it became my outlet. I used my content creation journey to converse with more people who might be going through that. And I do actually get few people who write to me saying they're struggling and stuff. So
you're out of it now?
Yes.
It's okay. I think the depression itself as a topic and it's too deep on its own. Okay? Like I don't know if you get into depression, get out of depression, how can you like sort of define it? Okay? त्यही भएर पनि मैले भने कि आजकल डिप्रेसन भन्ने वर्डलाई अघि तिमीले म त डिप्रेस भयो भनेर एकदम इजिली त्यो वर्डलाई चाहिँ युज गर्नु हुँदैन जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई. ए मलाई त ओसिडी छ, मलाई त यो त यस्तै हुनुपर्छ. ओसिडी इज अ डिफ्रेन्ट लेभल अफ के अरे इलनेस इन अ वे कि खास.
Well, correct. Somewhere, what I'm trying to bring out is, as you said, a lot of people are not talking about it. I know a lot of people are talking about it.
And those people who are talking about it are saying कि म डिप्रेस छु कि. That's not how you talk about depression. जस्तो लाग्छ है मलाई चाहिँ.
Well, I think there has to be a point, at least express.
Yeah, exactly.
You're right.
At least express. So when you express, there might be an outcome ki you are actually depressed, or maybe not depressed, or maybe you were just disheartened or saddened by something or sorrowed. So I think people need to talk more and just at least express what they're feeling.
I love that you said that, because I was going to say depressed. I'm depressed is used lightly, but what you said is absolutely right. If that is going to help you in your journey of discovery and understanding whether you're there or not, please do seek mental help though. There are a few organizations that are doing such a great job. Please do that. But thank you for saying that. I don't know if I'm out of it or I'm in it, but recognizing that I was there was a very difficult journey for me, because like you said, I was like, I'm just saying this, I'm not depressed, I'm fine. But because I did that, it made it worse, right? It's like for me. But that's why expression is so important to identify. If I say I'm depressed, and if my friend says, are you really depressed? Like, what is happening? And they try to understand it better, and they say, I think you should seek mental help, because like you said, to kun chai point ma suicide huna jancha, kun chai point ma do you actually one of the actors, I was watching a random clip on TikTok, she said, I've tried to attempt suicide multiple times, and she showed her scars. And I was like, she talked about it so casually only because she was able to, she didn't feel that way right now. Had she just, so what point does it get to? So something you said is very important. That's why I wanted to emphasize on it. If you express, and your friends think, no, त जहिले पनि खुसी भइराख्छ, त रमाइलो गर्नुपर्ने मान्छे तँलाई होइन होला. When he goes home, or when she goes home and they're by themselves, you have no idea what point they must have gotten
Exactly.
So expression is extremely important.
Correct.
त्यो एक्सप्रेसन गर्नु नपाएर पनि कति मान्छेहरू भित्रभित्रै सफर गरिरहेको हुन्छ जस्तो लाग्छ कि मलाई चाहिँ होइन. इट्स जस्ट एउटा अगाडि पोर्ट्रे गर्दाखेरि त एकदम ह्याप्पी, सबै कुरा ठिक छ होइन, आइएम द स्ट्रङ पर्सन, आई एम दिस द्याट, त्यो हुनसक्छ. तर भित्रभित्र लाइक यु नो योर सोल इज टेलिङ यु द्याट यु नो फक यु, आई डोन्ट वान्ट टु बी यु एनी मोर टाइपको के भित्र. एन्ड आई थिङ्क दिस इज समथिङ द्याट के अरे वान अफ द एक्टर्स सेट के यस्तै खालको कुरा होइन. एन्ड द्याट्स वेन आई रियलाइज कि लाइक डिप्रेसन इज नट जस्ट यु नो म त क्या डिप्रेस्ड भयो भने चाहिँ भन्नु हुँदैन, बिकज दिस इज मच मोर डिपर देन जस्ट यु नो बिङ स्याड एट सम लेभल के होइन. इट्स मोर देन द्याट के. इट्स लाइक योर बडी इज ट्राइङ टु टेल यु द्याट यु डोन्ट वान्ट बी यु के होइन. It's like that deep के होइन. So like I think टाइममा नै एउटा like you said एउटा आउटलेट भेटाएर आफूलाई एक्सप्रेस गर्न पायो भने हेल्प खोज्नलाई चाहिँ नि भनौँ न आफूलाई सेल्फ रियलाइज गराउन सक्यो भने अनि त्यसमै हुन्छ नि आफूमा काम गर्न सक्यो भने चाहिँ आई थिङ्क द्याट्स द बेस्ट वे द्याट पिपल क्यान गो अबाउट, स्पेसली अबाउट मेन्टल हेल्थ के. टाइममा नभएर नै होइन, टाइममा राइट मान्छेहरू राइट सर्कल नभएर नै अहिले जति पनि सुसाइड केसेसहरू छन् अथवा अटेम्प्ट टु सुसाइड केसेसहरू छ, आई थिङ्क त्यो भइरहेको कारण यो पनि जस्तो लाग्छ कि हामीलाई हुर्काएको पनि त्यसरी नै हो नि त. यु ग्याट बी स्ट्रङ, डोन्ट बी हामी केटाहरूकोमा नै केटी यस्तो रेयर बस्छ भन्ने खालको कुराहरू हुन्छ नि त होइन. सो त्यही कुराले गर्दाखेरि स्पेसली मेन गो थ्रु दिस काइन्ड अफ आई डोन्ट नो अबाउट डेटा है, तर मेन गो थ्रु मोर वुमेन गो थ्रु मोर भनेर चाहिँ. तर आई थिङ्क वेन मेनहरूलाई चाहिँ धेरै फिल जस्तो लाग्यो मलाई.
Okay. So that's what you think about depression.
I do. The only thing I want to end that with is to tell people, if someone comes and talks to you about it, just check in on your friends. But more than that, कुरा गर्न try गर्दाखेरि सुन्दिनु. Just ask open-ended questions. It's such an important part of communication, active listening.
Right.
So when someone says, I'm feeling this way, just ask them, tell me more. That's the best thing you can say to someone who might be struggling. Because sometimes you just want to be heard. You don't want to be fixed. I'm not a big fan of that word when it comes to people. You're not there to look for solutions. Sometimes as friends, we can't give it. But just ask, tell me more. It's a great way to get someone to open up to you.
Correct. So I wanted to ask about social media now, since you've been to branding and marketing, and branding or marketing, two different parts of it. You've preached about it, you talk about it a lot. So what actually is branding and marketing? The difference very actually, if you want to enlighten us. And after that, I want to talk about social media and how does it affect. So
Because he really wants to get more followers on his TikTok and so Instagram, which is struggling.
I'll come to TikTok as well.
होइन अलिकति कन्सल्टेसन
Hey, the fact that
खोजिहालौँ
you're trying it says so much about you. So much courage in doing that. Branding or marketing, the reason I differentiate, and I say this again, because a lot of businesses struggle in finding a balance between the long run and the short run. And that's basically why I differentiate it. Branding is your marathon, your vision, your mission. Why do you do what you do? Where do you want to be in 5 years? What kind of customers do you want to target? Marketing is virality. Marketing is customer acquisition cost. Marketing is कति million, कति followers भयो, कति engagement आइरहेछ, तपाईको Facebook ads effective छ कि छैन, त्यो त एकदम short term thing हो नि त. Ad बनाएर, do you just want to be really famous? Is the ad going to be funny? Is it going to be serious? Is your brand serious? Is your brand funny? That's branding. Marketing चाहिँ यो ad run गरौँ, we want to get these many acquisitions from this. यतिजना कस्टमरले किन्नु पर्यो. त्यो चाहिँ the reason I differentiate is बिजनेसलाई सक्सिड गराउन, स्पेसली स्टार्टअप्सहरूलाई मैले कन्सल्ट गर्दा चाहिँ यो दुइटाको ब्यालेन्स खोज्नुहोस् भन्छु कि मैले. किनकि अ लट अफ बिजनेसेस एउटा त कस्टमर सर्भिसमा धेरै इन्भेस्ट गर्नुहुन्न, बिकज दे लाइक सेल्स मार्केटिङ एकजना मान्छेलाई गराइदिन्छु, कस्टमर सर्भिस पनि एकजनाले गर्छ. त्यो गर्नुभयो भने तपाईँको ब्रान्डिङ इफेक्ट हुन्छ. अनि मार्केटिङ पनि त गर्नु पऱ्यो, सोसियल मिडियामा प्रेजेन्स हुनु पऱ्यो, तपाईँहरूको पोस्टहरू गर्नु पऱ्यो तपाईँहरूले. अनि पोस्ट गरेर आइसकेपछि जुन चाहिँ रिस्पोन्स दिनुहुन्छ, द्याट्स ब्रान्डिङ. द्याट्स वाइ आई डिफ्रेन्सिएटेड, बिकज ब्रान्डिङ इज यर लङ टर्म गोल. You don't want to go viral and not know what to do with that audience. Suppose your video gets 1 million views tomorrow. As a business, individualize it, we'll interact, our followers grow. As a business, is just getting...
What do you do with it? Yeah.
10,000 followers भएको businessमा conversion भएन भने तपाईँलाई काम लागेन. So that's why you need to always do a balance between branding and marketing. ब्रान्डिङले के गरिदिन्छ भने तपाईँको 10,000 followers आयो भने उहाँहरूले कसरी कन्भर्ट गर्ने, वेबसाइट राम्रोसँग बनेछ, वेबसाइटको थिम र सोसियल मिडियाको थिम मिल्छ, सोसियल मिडिया इज भेरी फनी, वेबसाइटमा गएर हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ सिरियस, इट्स अ भेरी प्रिमियम प्रडक्ट, डजन्ट मेक सेन्स. सो वाट टु डु विथ दोज फलोवर्स इन द लङ रन, वेयर डु यु वान्ट एक्सप्यान्ड टु, एज इन सिटी, कन्ट्री, that is all defined by branding. That's why I differentiate it. To find a balance between your long-term and short-term goals is the balance between branding and marketing.
So you've been consulting startups and companies as well on branding, marketing?
I am. NYF Startup Awards, I've been there. I've worked with a few incubation hubs in Nepal as well. And I work with Sajila Seva as a company. Like, there are few companies that actually just help the founders with just understanding this balance.
So what do you think are the, again, I think एउटा जिस्त दिइसक्यो तिमीले होइन, तर what is the major problem that they are facing? Just differentiating between branding and marketing is the major sort of problem that they face as a startup, or is there beyond that?
मैले कन्सल्ट गर्दा स्पेसली इन्क्युबेसन हबमा काम गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ अहिले पनि अझै फिल हुन्छ मलाई. एन्ड दिस इज नट जस्ट स्टार्टअप्स दो. वेन आई डु ब्रान्ड स्ट्राटेजी वर्कसप्स, people get so confused. I mean, I've done this for MNCs as well. The companies that I join, I always do a brand strategy workshop in the beginning. I try to understand what is the vision of the company. Suppose you come up with a vision 10, 20 years ago. Is it still relevant today?
Exactly.
So the biggest struggle I think companies are having today is understanding your long-term vision. Because a lot of us haven't sat down with there are companies that I've worked with, there are 3 founders who don't agree with each other, or 2 founders. If you don't agree, and they don't realize that because they're always saying त्यो स्प्रिन्ट गरेर हुन्छ कि अर्को 6 महिना कसरी चलाउने, अर्को 1 वर्ष कसरी चलाउने, 5 वर्षमा कहाँ पुग्नु छ तपाईँलाई, तपाईँको कम्पनीको भिजन के हो. अनि इभन इन द ब्रान्ड विल समथिङ आई टक अबाउट इज, आर यु, मैले अगेन इक्जाम्पल दिएँ जस्तै, आर यु एप्पल, पोर्स, वेन्डिज ओर कहाँ, विच मिन्स is your tweet going to be funny, or is your social media post going to be funny, sarcastic, or is it going to be very premium? हजुर आउनुहोस् न, तिमी आऊ, तपाईँ आउनुहोस्, hey bro, do you want to sign up? Completely different brands.
Exactly.
That you can't define unless you have a vision.
Exactly.
So most companies that I've seen that struggle with, and I emphasize on this a lot, but they don't see the point of it, because चलिरहेको छ कम्पनी बिजनेस आइरहेको छ किन गर्नु पऱ्यो भोलि एक्सप्यान्ड गर्दा कसरी गर्नुहुन्छ तपाईँले फ्रेन्चाइज मोडलमा जानुभयो वाट इज द ब्रान्ड बुक द्याट युर गोइङ जस्ट बिकज यो ब्रान्ड कलर इज सोर्टेड तपाईँको फन्ट इज सोर्टेड इज डन टाइपोग्राफी र कलर भएर पुग्यो वाट इज देयर वाट सुड देयर लाइक डिलरसिपमा दिँदाखेरि पनि तपाईँ उहाँहरूको एन्ड मोस्ट बिग कम्पनीज अल्सो ह्याभ दिस ल्याङ्ग्वेज कस्तो हुन्छ सो बिगेस्ट प्रब्लम इज द लङ टर्म भिजन वाट्स युर अल्टिमेट गोल फर द कम्पनी
है आई थिङ्क द्याट्स वान अफ द मेजर प्रब्लम त्यो पनि हो तर मेरो एक्सपिरियन्सले चाहिँ के पनि भन्छ भन्दाखेरि because I've been working in the same field for past 14-15 years now most companies अहिलेको टाइममा पनि they focus more on marketing than branding that's a problem है एउटा लेभलमा ब्रान्ड बिल्डअप भइसकेको हुन्छ अब they also have this idea of like this is our brand this is how we talk त्यो आफ्नो ठाउँमा भयो होइन तर what they don't have is like she said कि ल हामीले एउटा लेभलमा मार्केटिङ गरिसकेपछि एउटा लेभलको इन्टरेक्सन जेनेरेट गरिसक्यो त्यसलाई केटर कसरी गर्ने भन्ने कुराको जुन त्यो फनेलिङ हुनुपर्छ नि त्यो प्लेटफर्म्सहरू नै बिल्ड नगरिकन मार्केटिङमा धेरै फोकस भइरहेको हुन्छ कि र नेपालको टु बी भेरी भेरी अनेस्ट नेपालको सबभन्दा ठुलो प्रब्लम भनेको नि डेटा सेन्ट्रिक अप्रोच छैन क्या अहिलेसम्म पनि इभन द बिग एमएनसिज हेभ नो डेटा अप्रोच के दे हेभ मल्टिपल बिजनेसेस इन देयर विङ्स तर त्यो डेटालाई एकै ठाउँमा कन्सोलिडेट गरेर काम गर्ने खालको कल्चर नै छैन कि अहिलेसम्म पनि
So I think also because of the data like कसरी युटिलाइज गर्ने भनेर पनि नलेज छैन होला
एब्सोल्युटली
त्यो पनि तर एउटा लेभलमा त युज गर्न मिल्यो नि त इफ यु हेभ लेट्स से 5000 इमेल्स हाउ मेनी इमेल्स आर यु सेन्डिङ भने जस्तै कि दे आर नट सेन्डिङ एनी इमेल्स कि द्याट्स अ प्रब्लम नि होइन
The crazy thing is email marketing is still huge.
Exactly.
It's still one of the most talked about marketing methods around the world.
Exactly.
Maile asti when I actually talked about the difference between working in India and Nepal and I'd actually posted that clip about the biggest difference is the data usage and understanding data and using that and leveraging that to take your next decision. And I got a comment saying तपाईँलाई नेपालको बारेमा त्यति थाहा छैन रहेछ होइन बट यु सेङ द्याट जस्ट भ्यालिडेट्स माई पोइन्ट मोर
त्यो डेटालाई युज गर्ने त्यो नै छैन कि अनि कसले गर्छ यो भन्ने टाइपको छ अब हुएभर इज युजिङ इट डज नट नो हाउ टु युज इट जस्तो पनि लाग्छ मलाई सो एउटा मलाई चाहिँ अहिलेको टाइममा त झन् त्यति धेरै टाउको दुखाउनु पनि पर्दैन कि इफ यु हेभ लेट्स से इमेल लिस्ट अफ लेट्स से 500 पिपल you put that into a free software called MailChimp you put that into it you go to ChatGPT write let's say I just want to send a very personalized email marketing something about my business does this one you're a prompt like the it'll give you like 5 different options that you can choose from you just put that boost you push it see how it goes personalized सबैले जाने गरी easy to use त्यति पनि गर्दैन कि अहिले हैन
Can I just add something? There are two things I wanted to point out. One is जुन चाहिँ तपाईँले डेटा जस्तै मैले सोसियल मिडियामा पनि तपाईँको सानो अकाउन्ट छ भने पनि तपाईँ इन्साइट्समा जानुभयो भने यु विल नो वेदर यु रिचिङ द राइट अडियन्स त त्यो इज लाइक अल्सो सफ्ट स्किल आई नो के नट डेटा एनालिसिस बट स्ट्रेटेजिक थिङ्किङ एन्ड द्याट्स अल्सो सफ्ट स्किल एउटा चाहिँ सफ्ट स्किल भयो अनि अर्को समथिङ द्याट यु मेन्सन्ड इज बिङ एबल टु युज फ्री टुल्स लाइक युट्युब एन्ड च्याट जिपिटी गुड गड गुगलिङ इज अ स्किल It really is. So is ChatGPT. I am surprised people haven't. I use ChatGPT for everything. मैले आफै email लेखे पनि rewrite this in a more professional manner. Go through the grammar भनेर अहिले पनि and I read the result and I'm like I could not have written it like this.
Exactly.
But it's still my words. I'm not copying everything.
There is a debate around यस्तो कुरामा चाहिँ जस्तै एउटा अथेन्टिसिटी चाहिँ लुज हुन्छ मैले लेखेको तरिका र च्याट जिपिटीले लेखेको कुराको अथेन्टिसिटी लुज हुन्छ भन्ने खालको डिबेट चाहिँ छ जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई तर इफ देयर इज अ टुल देन व्हाई नट भनेर जस्तो हुन्छ मलाई
That's what I'm saying. It's like learning how to use it. If I'm not saying so ChatGPT is a conversation. People think it's a tool where it's a robot. ChatGPT will actually have conversation with you. Teach me this like I'm like a 5-year-old. Cryptocurrency, it'll explain it to you in the simplest way. So if I'm putting the prompt, not asking ChatGPT to rewrite it, if I'm saying check the grammar, make sure the punctuations are correct, it will just do that. So the point, if you don't know how to use it, of course you're not going to be able to use it. So example, SEO there's so many tools. But ChatGPT is also a great way. So the keywords or analysis garne, like LinkedIn captions. But know how to give the prompt. So I actually don't sabai rewrite garna bhandinë कुनै एकदमै personal, like if I'm sending a very personal message to someone who got sick, I would just want to check my punctuation and grammar because I'm a stickler about it. And it's so much easier grammarly भन्दा पनि effective भएको छ के. So but that's it, just know how to use these tools भन्नु
धेरैले युज गर्दैन कि that's a
ChatGPT चाहिँ धेरैलाई थाहा भए पनि युज गर्दैन, and also because for a certain time त्यो पे गरेर किन्नु पर्छ.
पर्दैन, everything is free.
Because
everything is free.
When I first अहिले I'm using ChatGPT 3.5 something, अहिले ChatGPT 4 आइसक्यो.
It doesn't matter, bro. Doesn't matter which version you are using. So there's the upgrade version, but free मा पनि you'll have like एकदम high level को नै content.
Yeah, I get that because I'm using it. तर जसले युज गरिराख्नु भएको छैन, maybe when you first sign up त्यो पे गर trial period भनेर आउँछ, maybe that's also one reason. And
आउँछ र त्यस्तो? I have no idea. I have not seen it. It's completely free.
So अर्को एउटा as you said prompt पनि ChatGPT लाई मैले के क्वेसन सोध्छु भनेर पहिला आफै क्लियर हुनु पर्दो रहेछ के. हैन, if you don't know what the correct question is, you'll get all the correct wrong answers.
Isn't that how life is with people as well? If you don't know how to ask the right questions.
No, we're talking about the software.
Of course.
Absolutely
software.
right. One of the examples I'll give is, think about Google. So let's not go into the AI tool. Let's go into something as simple as Google. If you type today, what are the 5 benefits of coffee? You will only find benefits.
Correct.
And if you type, what are the disadvantages of drinking coffee? You will find 5 disadvantages. You're absolutely right. What you put in is the result you're going to get. What's the, like, so everything you'll find a disadvantage and advantage. You will need to know what you want to ask and what is it that you want to know. You want to find the advantage, you'll get it. Disadvantage, you will get that. So you have to know how to use, like, Google बाट त सुरु हुन्छ. ChatGPT त अझै एडभान्स्ड भएर, like you said, prompts नै दिन आउनु पर्छ. गुगलमा पनि त्यस्तो सिम्प्लिफाइड वेमा त्यसरी डिफरेन्शिएट गरेछ भने डेटा.
इनफ्याक्ट त्यस्तो एउटा सफ्टवेयर पनि छ जसले तिमीलाई प्रम्प्ट बनाउन हेल्प पनि गर्छ कि फर ChatGPT.
AI RPM is something that I've
त्यो पनि छ. कीवर्ड सर्च एभ्रिवेयर भन्ने एउटा सफ्टवेयर छ हैन. त्यसबाट पनि यु क्यान हेल्प, यु क्यान आस्क, लाइक उसले प्रम्प्ट बनाउन हेल्प गर्छ कि यो कुन सेक्सनमा कुन कन्ट्रीको बारेमा, अनि त्यसरी यु क्यान क्रिएट प्रम्प्ट्स फर ChatGPT क्या. यु जस्ट कपी पेस्ट द्याट on ChatGPT and it'll give you like exactly what you're looking for. त्यसरी पनि, तर it's more of practice अहिलेको टाइममा because it's evolving अहिले. So I think there's like bigger future in ChatGPT than anything else. अहिलेको टाइममा it's taking everybody's job. To be very honest.
I tried the AI image generator the other day. I'm trying to establish a website. Where is the world going? Like, even sometimes when I interact with ChatGPT, I'm just amazed at the depth of it. Bard पनि use गरेर छ मैले. It's just insane where the world is going. त्यही नेपालमा त्यही मार्केटिङ हेर्दाखेरि मलाई कस्तो अचम्म लाग्छ कि. But that's why there are some companies, like you said, they're like rushing into marketing, like होइन post गरेर 4 post a day, running behind their marketing team, going crazy, and the posts are just like, I don't know what they're talking about. Is it thought through? अनि ब्रान्डिङको बारेमा त्यति सोचे आउँदैन. That balance has become so important.
I guess that's a bigger opportunity for us. In a
for
way,
everybody.
Like,
if they understand why it's
if
important.
they understand.
To बुझाउन नै, it's taking, I keep harping about it, barking about it over and over again, why it's important to balance both of them.
Well, I guess like that's the way it is कि पहिलादेखि नै अब स्ट्रगल त्यसमै छ, अहिले पनि स्ट्रगल त्यसमै छ. अब होपफुली इन फ्युचर एज वेल होइन हामीले बिस्तारै अहिले मार्केट साइज त धेरै ग्रो भइसकेको छ कि, स्पेसली डिजिटल स्पेसमा चाहिँ मार्केट साइज धेरै ग्रो भइसकेको छ. तर प्रब्लली अहिलेको इकोनोमिक सort of सिचुएसनले गर्दाखेरि अलिकति सेटब्याक छ कि मार्केटमा. तर होपफुली
Can I just add, that's why it's important to invest in strategy now. Okay? Brand is strategy.
That's where people are not getting it.
Yeah, so let me tell you why. And if I have to convince someone, this is my trial.
Let's say,
to do that.
Okay, a situation, a big company, we have no money for marketing. The first money I'm going to cut down is on marketing. Now what do we do? How do I increase my sales? If somebody comes to you, what would your
my argument was actually going to be slightly different, because I was going to say marketing ma running behind this short-term goal bhanda pani, which is extremely important. What even COVID did for me personally and for businesses as well is it gave you time to step back and reanalyze your strategy, okay? Which a lot of you have to see as difficult as it is, and I know I'm painting a very rosy picture. Take that time to breathe, to actually reanalyze your strategy, okay? Because marketing ma bhagera tapaile Facebook ads run garera, if the economy itself is struggling, you're not going to get new buyers all of a sudden. So the buyerको retention पनि हुँदैन because they don't have the capacity to pay. So I'm saying before you run into the marketing strategy and telling your team, firing them or telling them to do TikTok all of a sudden 10 a day, go back and sit with your founding team, the leadership team, and say, what is it that we want to do with our brand? Because you would rather put out one, like personally, even in my content creation journey, I would rather put out one video that I am proud of, okay, that I believe in, than do 16 just because I know it's trending. If I suddenly start dancing to a trend song without putting a very appropriate message for my audience, it's not going to do well. Maybe I'll go viral, which actually happened with one of my videos, but I put it to private because it didn't suit my audience. Correct. But what I'm saying, before you run into this marketing, if the economy is struggling, your leadership team is still working, right? Sit with them and create a brand strategy because it'll help you see a better picture. तपाईले त्यो जुन चाहिँ content create गर्नुहुन्छ या जुन चाहिँ strategy in place गर्नुहुन्छ for implementation, it'll be a lot more thought through and it'll be a lot more targeted. Like when we talk about ads as well, like brand strategy मा पनि, isn't it, you know, most companies say तपाईको target audience को भन्दा सबैजना भन्छ कि Facebook ads मा पनि त सबैजनालाई target भएन नि त because the effectiveness is very low. The efficacy of such ads are very low. Even a brand, to target a 25-year-old Sita who's grown up in Kathmandu and Ram who's come from Ramethap, wouldn't you run different ads? So isn't this a great time for you to sit as a company and say, okay, what is it that we want to do? Do we want to be more approachable or do we want to be more premium? Sabai kura, if you can analyze, I'm saying use this time to actually refine your branding strategy so your marketing is extremely effective. तपाईँसँग $100 मात्र छ भने पनि right target audience मा फाल्नु र त्यो $100 and just say, you know what, जसले किन्छ, let's run a generic ad भने it's a big difference. So I'm saying use this time. Like COVID मा पनि, it was such a great time for me. The company that I was working with at that time, we actually took the time to actually rethink the strategy and it was a lot more effective.
Exactly. I think that's where the company should sort of think as well. कि अहिलेको टाइममा पैसा आफ्नो ठाउँमा छ तर spend it wisely, basically on
money.
Yeah.
And that's why you need strategy.
Yeah, exactly.
So in social media, I think this is my last question, because everybody uses social media. And अलिकति हामीले entrepreneurship को पनि कुरा गर्यौं, हैन, youthहरुको पनि कुरा गर्यौं. So यो entrepreneurship को कुरा गर्दाखेरि, youthहरुको कुरा गर्दाखेरि हामीले social media मा what is the most effective platform? Say I just want to build my brand, भनेर which social media would you use? Or I want to do marketing, भनेर which social media would you use?
Actually, the very straightforward answer would be TikTok, but that's not how I work.
So if you want to just build your brand, then would you rather use TikTok or would you rather use
I think it
Instagram
depends on the brand.
That's what I'm saying. So if I was to give a very straightforward answer, I'd say TikTok because it's the one that has the most, like any part of Nepal, when you go hiking or trekking, you will see people using TikTok more than anything else. But that's why I say clarify your branding strategy. Because Nepali companies that have actually used LinkedIn, they've actually not done bad. They've done well. So like you said, it depends on the brand. You're absolutely right. That's why you need to go back to strategy. Because TikTok, imagine you're trying to sell like really premium things. TikTok ma matra tapaile धेरै content फालेर हुँदैन के. Because is that the right audience for you? Like, do you still have to be in Facebook? If you have an older audience, absolutely yes. But that's why branding strategy is so important because you will know as like the $100 कहाँ खर्च गर्ने, कस्तो खालीको content create गर्ने भन्ने त्यो जवाब पाउनलाई तपाईले मेरो brand के हो, premium हो कि approachable हो कि कुन चाहिँ category मा fall गर्छ, त्यो once you have that answer, you will know exactly which social media to actually double down on. YouTube Shorts मा पनि जाने हो भने त, do I want to do more premium and quality content? You can't answer that unless you know what is my brand, what is my long-term vision, and what is my pricing strategy going to be, because that's what brand strategy does. It helps you define what my price range is going to be. So all of that strategy नभइकन social media मा नजानु. Social media मा एकदमै straightforward answer चाहिन्छ भने तपाईलाई, of course TikTok is the answer, but it's never that simple.
Ending note ma, right? I just feel like यो level को deep level जुन strategic level knowledge चाहिन्छ नि, त्यो नभइकन नि मान्छेहरूले आजकल धेरै कम्पनीजहरू खोलिरहेको जस्तो लाग्छ. यु बिङ इन द स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम एज वेल. एउटा फाउन्डेसनल लेभलमा यस्तो खालको ब्रान्ड स्ट्राटेजी, वेयर डु यु सी योर कम्पनी इन 5 years 10 years, एउटा हुन्छ नि त्यो कुराहरू नै राम्रोसँग सेट नभइकन नि कम्पनीहरू अहिले मसरुम जस्तो पलाइरहेको छ कि is what I feel.
Entrepreneurship भनेर हामीले वन्डरशिप त प्रोड्युस गरेर आएन.
Entrepreneurs हैन,
Entrepreneurs प्रोड्युस गरेर आएन.
every other person has become entrepreneur अहिलेको time.
Because अहिले यो टिकटकमा कुरा गर्दाखेरि there is a guy called Simon Sequib भन्ने छ. I don't know if you follow him or not. So what he tries to do is he lives in London. And Londonमा गएर random streetमा he says do you want to quit your job हैन, I'll pay you $10,000 to quit your job भन्दाखेरि 8 out of 10 they say no.
Okay. The नेपालमा चाहिँ सबैले गर्नु मन लाग्छ होला.
नेपालमा
You should try that, bro.
You should get a market analysis.
I'll give you 1 lakh rupiah हैन, what do you want to do?
Buy Jordan sneakers.
That's what you would do.
Exactly. Right.
So that is also another level of entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Let's say, what would you do? What would you do if what is your like business idea, and what is the X amount that you would need? And what
I
would you
actually
do?
had a brilliant business idea that I wanted to start in India. But this is what I agree. Entrepreneurship should come from a place of passion. But like I said, I'm a very doe-eyed dreamer. That's just who I am. Unless because entrepreneurship is not easy. Look at the number of startups that fail in India. The number is ridiculous. So India, the companies, to college, you have friends who are already have established businesses.
True.
So the network itself will teach you so much. And they're talking about entrepreneurship, finance basics. Entrepreneur but you do have to be the jack of all trades. Software चीजको बारेमा अलिकति knowledge भएन भने how can you work experience चाहियो. Internship पनि नगरिकन, if you want to go like straight out of college, you want to, without this experience, you want to start a business, it's not possible. I will only become an entrepreneur if I'm extremely, extremely passionate about that project, that I will give my life, I will earn no money, I'm ready to go hungry for a week if need be. My family doesn't depend on me for money, I will absolutely go into entrepreneurship. If that idea is something त्यतिको dedication चाहिन्छ कि entrepreneurship is not going to succeed in a year. Look at all these companies that went IPO. Did they hit? Were they profitable? नेपालमा त त्यो possibility पनि छैन because VCs, कति धेरै VCs छ. Who's going to invest in your company? Without thinking of any of these, people are jumping into that bandwagon. The economy, the market itself is very different. So I wouldn't unless I'm extremely passionate and I'm willing to go hungry for it.
Are you a entrepreneur or are you a self-employed person? भनेर चाहिँ एउटा differentiation गर्न सक्नुपर्छ जस्तो लाग्छ मान्छेहरूले चाहिँ.
I am at the moment I'm self-employed. See, there's the difference. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm a self-employed person. You've
created an institution that pays your salary, that pays for your expense. But you as an entrepreneur, I feel like there's more to it. होइन, सबैलाई entrepreneur हुनु त मन छ, तर I think भन्न कति fancy सुनिन्छ होला, तर some way somehow the entrepreneurship is the next level.
Social media.
सबैलाई आफ्नो लिङ्क्डइनमा entrepreneur देख्न मन छ, फेसबुकमा entrepreneur देख्न मन छ, तर it's a difficult sort of journey.
There is an entrepreneur, there is an entrepreneur, then there is a tantrepreneur.
Tantrepreneur भने चाहिँ कस्तो? Tantrepreneur भने चाहिँ कस्तो?
Like where entrepreneur बन्छ भनेर लागिसक्यो, या यो भएन त्यो भएन यो भएन. Tantrum. So basically, to end it, what is the quote of the day?
Good God, why am I?
Because I follow you in TikTok.
Hey, there's something called quote of the day. I didn't know that.
So something I always say is, you got this. I always say this because without self-belief and mental resilience, anything will be difficult. But my motto in life, what I've tried to live by and that's helped me, is this too shall pass. I've never let my designation define who I am. Had I done that, I think I would have really struggled. CMO भइसक्यो, गर्छु यो गर्छु. अहिले त if the job is good, if the designation, I would still take it. Like if the people are good. So this too shall pass. Whether it's like a great time in your career where I thought, oh my God, this is the peak I've reached, I fell down. And even when you're in your lows where you feel like I'm not hearing back from people or this is not working out, it's still okay. This will also pass.
Tom Hanks ko yaad hai you tell this too shall pass.
But this is like such an old Buddhism quote on that. This too shall pass is what Buddha actually taught. That whole meditation process is that, and meditation has really helped me. But two things: this too shall pass. Whatever you're going through, it's temporary. And second is, you got this. No matter what it is, you got this. You got this.
All right, we got this, bro.
We got it.
Yes,
we got this. And to our audience, you got this.
Copied. #copied.